ادع إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضاه. Today we are going to study الدرس الرابع. الدرس الرابع. الدرس the lesson. الرابع the fourth. الدرس الرابع the fourth lesson. In the fourth lesson we're going to learn several new concepts inshallah bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. The first one relates to hamzatul wasl. Hamzatul wasl. This is what we're going to explain inshallah right now. So we have two types of hamzas. The letter hamza. Hamzatun is of two types. We have a hamza which is referred to as hamzatul qata'. Hamzatul qat'i. And then the second type of hamza is referred to as hamzatul wasli. Hamzatul qat'i and hamzatul wasl. Two types of hamzas. Hamzatul qat' looks like this. It appears like this. You always have this somewhere. And this can either come on top of an alif, under an alif, on top of a waw, on top of a ya, or on a nabira, like this, when it's in the middle. So it appears like this. Hamzatul qata' can have fatha, kasra, dhamma, or sukoon. And it appears in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end of the word. And whatever the case, it's always going to be pronounced. You always pronounce this hamza wherever it appears, whether at the beginning, at the middle, or at the end of a word. You always pronounce it with whatever vowel it has on it. So it's always read. The second type of hamza, hamzatul wasl, looks like this. It looks like this. We have this kind of shape on top of it. And it only appears at the beginning of a word. Only at the beginning of the word. This one appears in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end. This one only appears at the beginning of a word. Never in the middle or at the end. This is not always read. Whereas this one is always read. You always read it. This is not always read. When do we read this? We read it if we're starting the word. So if we're starting this word, for example, whatever word it is, we start from here, we read this. And this can have fatha, kasra, or dhamma, and never sukoon. This one can have fatha, kasra, dhamma, and sukoon. This one will never have sukoon because it appears at the beginning. So the beginning will never have sukoon because we can't start word with a sukoon. So you have fatha, kasra, dhamma. We'll learn the rules inshallah. When does it have fatha, when does it have kasra, when does it dhamma, as we study this book inshallah. But for now, it can have fatha, kasra, or dhamma, never sukoon. طيب. So we only read it if we're starting the word with it. If we're starting the word with it, like al-baytu for example. Al-baytu, we read it. We said Whereas if we are not starting with it, perhaps there's a letter which precedes it. Wow. Or it's in the middle of the word, we don't read this. We don't read this. It's as though it's not there. So we skip it. We say wa and go to the lam. Or if it's shamsiya, we go to the letter after the lam and read it with a shadda. Wash-shamsi. Wash-shamsi wa duhaha. And so on. Okay. So there's two types of hamzas. Hamzatul qat'i. Hamzatul wasli. Hamzatul qat'i has this. It looks like the head of a ayn. Yeah, this. It has this to represent it in writing. Hamzatul wasli has this. It looks like a sad, the head of a sad, to represent it. Hamzatul qat' is read. Whether it comes at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end, it's always read. Hamzatul wasl is only read if you're beginning the word with it. If it's in the middle or you're joining, carrying on or continuing the sentence, then you don't read it. This is a good example here, look. Hamzatu. We don't say al-wasli. We say hamzatul. We skip it because we're not starting with this hamzatul wasl, so we don't read it. And the same here. Hamzatul qat'i. Hamzatul wasli. Whereas if I was to read from here, I would say al-wasl. I would say al-qat'. Okay. The other difference is this can appear at the beginning, the middle, the end. This only appears at the beginning. The other difference is this can have fatha, kasra, dhamma and sukoon. This only has fatha, kasra and dhamma. Okay. طيب, so this is rule number 1 in terms of reading. So when we read this, we say al-baytu. But when we read it here, we don't say fi al-bayt. We don't say fi al-bayt. Rather we say fil bayt. Al-masjidu fil masjidi. Al-maktabu ala al-maktabi. Ala al-maktabi. No, ala al-maktab. As-sariru ala as-sarir is wrong. We say ala as-sarir. Ala as-sarir. And the same for all of the lesson headings. Ad-darsu ar-rabi'. We don't say ad-darsu ar-rabi'. This is hamzatul wasl, this is hamzatul wasl. We read this one, but we don't read this one. Why do we read this one? Because we're starting with it. Why don't we read this one? Because we're continuing. So whenever we continue, the hamzatul wasl is dropped. Ad-darsu ar-rabi'. The other thing is hamzatul wasl now. This hamzatul wasl, it can have fatha, kasra, or dhamma. Whenever the hamzatul wasl is part of al, the al that we learned, the qamariya or shamsiya, if it's part of al, then it's always going to be read with a fatha. Al-bayt, al-qamar, al. If it's part of al, this hamzatul wasl will always be read with a fatha. Reading rule number 2 that we're taking in this lesson is, if we have 2 words, this word starts with a sukoon, and this one ends with a harf mad. We have 3 huruf mad, the letters of elongation, we have 3 of them. The first one is alif, preceded by fatha, then waw, sakina, preceded by dhamma, then ya, sakina, preceded by kasra. These are huruf mad. We prolong it 2 counts. Fatha by itself is a. With the alif added, it becomes 2 counts. A, u, i. So these are the 3 huruf mad. If the first word ends with a harf mad, one of these, so let's say it ends with this, and then we have, so this fa has a kasra and the ya has a sukoon. So this is a harf mad. If the first word ends with a harf mad and the second one begins with a sukoon, ends with harf mad, the next one begins with a sukoon. Remember, hamzatul wasl here, it's as though it doesn't exist because it's in the middle. So we're going to skip it. So we're going from harf mad to sukoon. The reading rule says, if we have a harf mad, or the first word ends with a harf mad and the second one begins with a sukoon, we eliminate the harf mad. We don't read the harf mad. We say fil bayt. Fil, not fil bayt. And the same thing with ala. This is ala. This is the alif. This is the type of alif. So we're supposed to stress this. This is 2 counts. Ala. Okay. Remember that shadda represents 2 things. Whenever you see shadda, it actually represents 2 things. Sukoon and, in this case, fatha. So, sa. So here we're going from harf mad, which is the alif. And then the next word starts with a sukoon. So what happens? The rule says we cancel out the harf mad and we read the letter before the harf mad, join it to the sukoon. So we say las, not ala sariri. We say ala sariri. When we are reading this, we say al-baytu. The hamza is pronounced with a fatha, and we're reading it because we're starting with the word. Whereas here, we're going to apply the 2 rules that we learnt. First rule is we're not going to stretch this harf mad. We're not going to say fi. The reason why we're not going to say fi is because it's followed with a sukoon. So we're going to cancel out the harf mad and just going to say fil, fil, fil. The second rule was the hamzatul wasl. We didn't read it. We didn't say fi al-bayt. Fi al-bayt. We said fil. So we cancelled out the harf mad and we cancelled out the hamzatul wasl. So we read fa kasra to lam sukoon. Fil, fil. طيب البيت في البيت. المسجد في المسجد. المكتب على المكتب. Same thing. السرير على السرير. طيب, aside from the two reading rules, another thing that we learn in this section is that the endings of nouns are affected due to their position in a sentence, as well as things which come before it. So al-baytu ends with a dhamma. When we added fi and ala, it caused the dhamma to change and become a kasra. Why did it become a kasra? Because we added fi and ala. So fi and ala have caused the dhamma to change into a kasra. This is also something that we need to take on board in this section here. That there are huruf, there are particles which are added before a noun that cause the noun's ending to change from dhamma to kasra. These huruf, they have a name. We call them harf, it's a particle. Harful jar. Harful jarri. Particle of al-jar. What does jar mean? Jar means pulling, literally means pulling. So it pulls the dhamma, it pulls it down and drags it down and makes it turn into a kasra. That's literally what harful jar means. Pulls and makes it kasra. So which vowel is it that goes under the letters? There's only one vowel which is written under the letters, and that is the kasra. So harful jar, it pulls the dhamma and the fatha if it has a fatha, and it takes it down to having a kasra. So the word that comes after harful jar will end with a kasra. The plural of harful jar is huruf. Huruful jar. Huruful jarri. The letters of pulling or dragging, literally. So ala and fi are huruful jar. There are around 20 or 21 in total in the Arabic language. In the whole Arabic language, there are around 21 huruful jar. And these huruful jar, they only enter nouns. They can only be found before nouns. Where do we find the huruful jar? We only find them entering upon nouns. So whatever word comes after the harf jar is always going to be a noun. So we could add this to our list. You remember previously we said that there are signs which indicate that a word is a noun. From those signs, one of them was if it has al at the beginning. Al, this al. The other sign was if it has tanween, fathatain, kasratain, dhammatain at the end. If the word has fathatain, kasratain, dhammatain at the end, then it's a noun. Today we're adding number 3, if there's a harf jar before it. If it's preceded by a harful jar, one of these 21 particles, then we know that it is a noun, because huruful jar only come before nouns. They don't come before verbs, and they don't come before particles. So we're left with nouns. So if it's preceded by harful jar, then we know that the word after is a noun. So this is a noun. Ism, and we refer to it as ism majroor. Ism majroor. Majroorun. Why? Because it's had the effect of the harful jar applied to it, which was to take the dhamma down to kasra. So the dhamma has been pulled from the noun and turned into a kasra. So we refer to it as majroor. Ism majur. Whenever we have a harf jar, it's followed by ism majroor. Ismun majroorun. If we have a harf jar, it's going to be followed by ism majroor. This is very important for us to remember. Whenever we have a harf jar, it's going to be followed by ism, and this ism is going to be majroor, yani ends with a kasra. That's what majroor means. It ends with a kasra. So here we have harful jar. Then it's followed by ism majroor. Why? Because it ends with a kasra. Al-baytu is not ism majroor. Why? Because it doesn't end with a kasra. It ends with a dhamma. So this is not called ism majroor. This has a different name. Fi al-bayti. Harf jar ism majroor. Ala al-maktabi. Harf jar ism majroor. Fil masjidi. Harf jar ism majroor. Ala al-sariri. Harf jar ism majroor. Huruf al-jar in English we translate it to mean prepositions. Fi means in. Ala means on. Fi means in, inside something. Ala means on top of something. So fil bayti means in the house. Fil bayti, in the house. Fil masjidi, in the masjid. Ala al maktabi, on the desk. Ala sariri, on the bed. Fil bayti, in the house. Fil masjidi, in the masjid. Ala maktabi, on the desk. Ala sariri, on the bed. This is the meaning of fi and ala. Fi means in, ala means on. Okay, so let's read the next part. It says ba. The next part is titled ba. Aina Muhammadun. Aina means where. So you're asking about the location of something. Aina Muhammadun. Where is Muhammad? This is the su'al. Su'al means question. Aina Muhammad. This is su'al. هذا سؤال. This is a question. Al-jawab, the answer. Al-jawabu, the answer. Huwa fil ghurfati. Huwa fil ghurfati. He, Muhammad, is in. Fi means in. Al-ghurfa is a new word. It means room. In the room. He is in the room. Huwa is a pronoun. Pronoun. Pronouns in Arabic, we refer to them as ضمير. 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 Yeah, ضاد. ضمير. The plural is ضمائر. ضمير, a pronoun. ضمائر, pronouns, plural. So, huwa is a pronoun. It's a ضمير. So is here. Huwa and here. Huwa refers to a male. He, here means she. So we learn two pronouns in this lesson. We're going to learn two pronouns in this lesson. And what are pronouns? Pronouns are a type of noun. They are a type of ism. So they fall under the category of ism. And the reason why we use pronouns is to allow us to refer to something without having to repeat the name. So here we don't have to say Muhammadun fil ghurfa. This is a short word which is used to replace something so that we don't have to repeat it. Aina Muhammadun. We don't have to repeat this noun in the answer. We don't have to say Muhammadun fil ghurfa, Muhammad. We can just say he. It's easier. Huwa fil ghurfati. He is in the room. Fi harf jar. Al-ghurfati ends with a kasra. Why? Because there's a harf jar before it. So the ism has to be majroor. What does the ism has to be majroor mean? It has to take a kasra. Harf jar is followed by ism majroor. That's what we learned here. We should have picked up this concept here. Harf jar is followed by ism majroor. So the noun has to have a kasra. Huwa fil ghurfati. He is in the room. Wa ayna Yasirun. And where is Yasir? Huwa fil hammami. He, referring to Yasir, is in the bathroom. Hammami, is a new word. It means bathroom. Hammam. So this is a meme here. Huwa fil hammami. He is in the bathroom. Who is in the bathroom? Yasir. We're referring to Yasir. Wa ayna aminatu. And where is Amina? Wa ayna aminatu? Hiya fil matbakhi. Hiya fil matbakhi. She is in the matbakh. This is a picture of a matbakh. Matbakh is a kitchen. Fil matbakhi ends with a kasra. Why? Because it's preceded by harf jar. Harf jar ism majroor. Matbakhi, kitchen. Ayna Amina? She is in the kitchen. Ayna al-kitabu? Where is the book? Ayna al-kitabu? Where is the book? We don't say Ayna al-kitab because of the rule that we took here. That when the hamzatul wasl is in the middle, we skip it. We say Ayna al-kitabu? Where is the book? Huwa ala al-maktabi. Huwa ala al-maktabi. Here, the gender of the book is mudhakkar. The book is mudhakkar. It's masculine. We mentioned previously that every noun has a gender. Whether it's a living being like Amina and Muhammad, they have genders. And likewise, non-living beings or non-living objects, they also have genders in Arabic. Al-Kitab has a gender, and its gender is that it's masculine. So we refer to it the same way we refer to a masculine. So we use the masculine pronoun huwa, huwa. But in translation, we don't say he, we'd say it. Ayn al-kitab, huwa, it, referring to something which is masculine, huwa, it. Ala al-maktabi, it is on the desk. Huwa ala al-maktabi, it's on the desk. It is on the desk. Huwa ala al-maktabi, we translate it. We translate the dhamir here to mean it. We don't say he. Yeah. Wa ayna as-sa'atu, and where is the watch? Sa'a has several meanings. From them is watch. It can also mean hour, and it can also mean time. Kam is-sa'a, what is the time? Ayna as-sa'a, where is the watch? Hiya ala as-sariri. Here is referring to something which is feminine. Sa'a is feminine. Kitab is masculine. Sa'a is feminine. So we refer to it the same way we'd refer to a feminine person. The same way we refer to Amina, here, she, we say here for Sa'a. But in translation, we don't say she. Aina Sa'a, where's the word? She is on the bed. We'd say it. So huwa and here, if it's referring to things which have no soul, non-living things, we translate it as it for both of them. It. It is on the bed. It is on the bed. وأين الساعة هي على السرير. هي على السرير. It is on the bed. حرف جر اسم مجرور. حرف جر اسم مجرور. Okay, so this is what we're learning here. We're learning two pronouns. The pronouns that we learned here is huwa, he, and here, she. And this huwa and here, in English, we can translate it as he, or she, or it. If we're referring to things which have no soul, non-living things, we translate it as it. Okay, so if we've understood this text here, we have to answer the questions. This questions is going to be homework. Tamarin. Tamarinu, the plural of tamrin. Exercises. Exercises. أجب عن الأسئلة الآتية. عن أسئلتي. An caused as'ila, which is a noun, to end with a kasra. An is a harf jar. Is part of the 21 huruful jar. An is also another harf jar. An is also another harf jar. Okay. أجب عن الأسئلة الآتية. Answer the following questions. And these questions are going to be for homework. And they are based on what we've read here. So, أين الكتاب, where is the book? And you use a pronoun to answer it. Aina Muhammad, you use a pronoun to answer it. Okay, let's go through the questions and see if there's anything that's not being covered. طيب غرفة حمام مكتب ماذا. Okay, ماذا is also something which is used to ask questions. It's a tool that's used to ask questions. ماذا means what. ماذا على المكتب, what is on the desk. ماذا على السرير, what is on the bed. ماذا means what, similar to ما. ماذا على المكتب, what is it that's on the desk and what is it that's on the bed. ماذا, what is on the desk and what is on the bed. ماذا. Okay, that's exercise number 1, homework. The second piece of homework says اقرأ واكتب مع ضبط أواخر الكلمات. Read and write with the correct vowelization of the endings of the word. This is to test you to see if you understood the concept of harf jar and how it affects the noun after it. So here the default is that the noun ends with a dhamma. 1 dhamma if it has alif lam, or 2 dhamma, dhammatain if it does not have alif lam. Okay, let's explain that. So if it has no alif lam, we'd say baytun. Baytun. If it has alif lam, we take off the tanween and we end with 1 dhamma. Al-baytu. Okay, what if we added fi to this one that has 2 dhammatain? If we add fi to this, it will be fi bay. The dhammatain will change to kasratain. Fi baytin. Baytun becomes fi baytin. But if it has 1 dhamma, then it becomes bay. It changes to 1 kasra. Baytun fi baytin. Al-baytu fil bayti. 1 dhamma becomes 1 kasra. 2 dhammas becomes 2 kasras. Dhammatain, kasratain. Changes to kasratain. Okay. So here we need to remember that concept that we learnt. The default is that al-madrasatu ends with a dhamma. Fi is going to affect it and change it to T. Madrasati. Al-madrasatu fil madrasati. طيب, so this is second homework. The third piece of homework is اقرأ واكتب, read and write. So this is, we need to read this and write it out. Okay, before I set this as homework, I'm going to read the words that are new. The words that are new here is al-jami'atu. We haven't taken al-jami'atu. I'm not reading the fi. Al-jami'atu means the university. Al-jami'ah. Al-jami'atu, university. Is there any new words? Okay. Zainab is the name of a person. Zainab. Okay. Al-fasl. Fasl is classroom. Al-faslu, classroom. The classroom. Al-faslu, the classroom. Yasir is a person's name. Mirhad is toilet. So we have hammam is bathroom, and mirhad, al-mirhad, al-mirhad is toilet. Faslun is classroom, we said. Ash-shamsu, the sun, wal-qamaru, and the moon, fi as-sama. As-sama is the sky. The sun and the moon are in the sky. Okay, so those are the new words. Inshallah, we're going to stop here. So we have 3 pieces of homework. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Hopefully, inshallah, today's class was understood. We're going to continue next lesson, inshallah, from where we stopped off. Please revise and do the homework. Barakallah feekum. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.